Hello, everyone. Welcome back to my channel. And I've been wanting to do this video for a little while because this idea came to me while I was doing some other research on other videos and getting other pictures together. But I wanted to call this video The Spy Who Did Not Like Violence. All right. So I'm talking about Roger Moore. And it's hard to believe Roger Moore, he always seemed to be, he was like in war movies, the Bond movies, 7 of them, and um, The Saint. He was in The Saint. Now, he's said in interviews that The Saint, of course, was made for television, so they had to abide by that rating system. But with Bond, of course, they had a little wider range that they could work with since it would be in the cinema and not on TV. However, don't take my word for it that he didn't like a lot of violence. Listen to this piece of interview.
The violence in Bond was rather sort of comic strip violence when I started. And towards the end, I thought they became too violent. Well, I've always hated guns anyway. They had terrible problems with me firing a gun because I blink before the gun goes off. It's because I'm a coward.
Yeah, so he kind of plainly states it right there. And the funny thing is, he's talking about that. Now, when I saw this interview, the reason why I wanted to do this quick video was because I was putting together, I think it was some of my earlier videos of can you guess the movie? And where I would take one still from one of the Bond movies, have it zoom, and we zoom it way in, and then we just slowly zoom out and see if you could guess which Bond movie it was before it was completely zoomed out. While I was freezing some of the film and trying to take a good snip or picture of it, there were times where I thought I'd noticed exactly what Roger Moore had said in this interview. I'm like, wow, he blinks right before he shoots, or he's blinking as he shoots. And a lot of times in a lot of the Bond movies with Roger Moore, he is not shown, his face isn't shown while he's shooting. He's shooting off camera. You just hear it. But there are a few of them where, a few times where, and here I'm going to show you a few of those. So we could see with some of these where his eyes are shut as he's about to fire or as he fired. And so it's pretty interesting that he wasn't lying in that interview when he said that. He really would shut his eyes when firing a gun. He did not like violence. In fact, I was going to show you in the Bond on Bond book written by Roger Moore. There's a couple of times in here he addresses violence, and so I kind of marked these so I could get to them. But in one of them here, I was going to read to you a couple of the parts. So he says right here in one spot, he says, "At the outset, I knew I would have to be tougher than the other screen heroes I had played. Bo Maverick, Ivanhoe, Simon Templar, and Brett Sinclair. However, having known many soldiers and servicemen, I didn't necessarily believe that Bond was a man who enjoyed killing. he'd have to be rather sadistic to get a kick out of it. In fact, when I reread the Fleming novels, there was a line that stated, Bond did not particularly enjoy killing. And that was the key to my interpretation of the role. I wouldn't enjoy killing, but I'd do it professionally, quickly, and accurately. So only if he had to. And you kind of notice that in the Roger Moore movies. You kind of notice how he, um, they call it campy, is what they say. They, oh, there's more camp. And even in the interviews that he has through a lot of his Bond career, they call it, oh, there was more campiness in this movie. And he was a little more. He made more jokes. He was a little more jovial uh, in the movies. And in fact, um, it's been said many times in the Bond community and talked about how the Living Daylights, they thought perhaps Roger Moore was going to be in the Living Daylights, and they had extra camp in it for him because that's more of his interpretation of Bond. Um, and then when they found out it was going to be Timothy Dalton, well, this was more going to be more serious. So they took some of that camp out, or they tried to see if Dalton could pull some of it off, in the Living Daylights. But Roger Moore himself, and so in interviews in the book here, talks about a dislike of violence. There's another mention. I'm going to go to that as well. One more other mention, and he's talking about A View to a Kill. And let's see, what does he say here? He says, my only sadness with this film was the sheer amount of violence, gunfire, and explosions, killing scores of innocent Zorin employees in the finale. It seemed a little over the top in my mind, and not quite in the Bond tradition. So yeah, so and that kind of really was too. Most of Roger Moore's um, movies. In fact, didn't he even say that in one of his lines? He's a professional, and those he kills are themselves killers. So he really didn't like violence towards innocents in these movies, and he said so right here with Zorin's employees. And that really did play out in that movie because Zorin was psychotic. So he was killing without discretion. I think that was part of showing how he was a psychopath. And part of his character was that, he didn't even care who he was killing or for why. He just did. But Roger Moore again states that he thought that was over the top, that violence. And so I thought it was pretty interesting how Roger Moore was a spy who disliked violence. He did not like violence, and he wasn't a prude by any means, but he didn't like unnecessary violence in movies and in cinema. So just wanted to share that with you. I thought that was an interesting little tidbit of information. That interview really made me think about this. And then those pictures of him with his eyes closed. He did not like firing a gun. I think I would probably be the same way. I don't have a real gun. I don't own a real gun, and if I had to fire one, I'd probably. I don't know if I would close my eyes, but they do kind of scare me because I'm not used to them. I'm not around them. I'm not comfortable with them. Maybe that's how Roger Moore was as well. Just it's not something he was comfortable with. But I do agree that sometimes there can definitely be too much violence out there. I like his take on Bond and how even Bond says that he doesn't like to kill. So that's a interesting approach to it. And I'm kind of hoping with the new Bond coming on, maybe they'll have a little bit more of that approach as well. That this is, yes, there is a job that Bond has, but he doesn't like to kill, um, and it's like a last resort kind of thing, or only when he's ordered to do so. So we'll see. We'll see what kind of take the next actor has on Bond. But I appreciate you checking in for this video. Take care, and we'll see you in the next one. All right, thanks. Bye.